Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Learn Smart Coding. In this video what I'm going to talk about is the Microsoft Graph. How do we access the APIs, the Graph APIs using the SDK? Come, let's dive in. Alright, first thing first. So before we proceed, basically you need Visual Studio for this demo. I have Visual Studio 2022 and you can even use Visual Studio 2019, but the sample code that you're seeing on my screen, which is in the GitHub repository, is built using the .NET 6. So if you don't have the .NET 6 installed, I will give you this link. You can come over here. You can install the .NET SDK for .NET 6.0. Once you install this to your Visual Studio, you will be ready to download this code and open up this code. So the sample code that you're seeing here is being built using a tutorial from the Microsoft. I will give you the link for the tutorial. If you want to do it by yourself, feel free to do it, but I'm going to open up this project and I'll demonstrate what it is and how we have to use it. I have opened up this project. So in this project there are only few files. Okay, let's quickly go through it. Okay, so you have a app settings or JSON file. So basically under the settings we have some client ID, tenant ID, and then the scopes. If you remember in the previous video, every single API is tied up with a scope. Okay, if you're talking about the profile, then it's tied up with the user scope, users.read or users.readwrite or users.write. So that's why, right? So in this demo based on Microsoft tutorial, we are going to talk about the profile, accessing the profile, get the access token, and then do some actions about the mailing stuff. Okay, so that is what this project is all about. That's why here the scopes has only the users.read, mail.read, and mail.send scope. Okay, all right. Now let's take a look at the other files. So we have something called graph helper, and then there are a couple of methods. We have program.cs where the main methods are being called. Okay, and then there's something called settings file. It's basically reading all the settings from the app settings files. Now before we dive into each of these, right, so let's run this and see how it works. Okay, all right, so let's run this .NET run. So now what it is going to do is it is going to authenticate this app at the registration level, which we will see shortly. So basically let's follow on the screen instruction. So it is asking us to go to this link. So once I go to this link, it is asking me to put the code. Let's copy this code. Let's put this. Alright, once I put my code, it is asking me to log in. So I'm going to use my accessing login. It's going to send me some notification to my authenticator app, and then let me authorize myself. I put my request, it's authenticated, and now it's asking me that hey, some app, the application which is running from the public, right, it's not running on the Azure portal, it is running from our local. So basically it's saying the app that you're trying to, unverified app, this is trying to access your profile. It's going to read your emails and mail. Do you want to give the access to this? And I say yes. So when I say yes, it is all done. Now let's go to the screen. See, once that is done, you can see a couple of options coming up. So if I click on one, it's going to give me the access token. You remember the previous video, there was one section called the access token section. So that is what. So we will take a look at the code, what kind of code has been running to get this access token. Okay, now let's take a look at the second one, third, and fourth. Okay, so the second one is basically list the inbox. Okay, so there is no items, that's why it's not listing. So let's me click on number 3 to send an email. So it's saying this is my email ID and there was an email sent. Okay, so if I log into this email ID, I should be able to see some emails. So you can see in my email, whenever we sign in, right, through the app, it's sending me an email that, you know, something is new sign in has been detected, that you have to review it, on all those things. All right, okay, now it's time to quickly dig into this code and take a look at this code. So before we take a look at the code and replace some IDs, okay, there are one important thing that we have to do is the app registration. So basically when you come to your portal, I've logged in with my learnsmartcoding@gmail.com. Okay, so once you come here, there's something called app registration. You can either type here and like app registration. So for me it's already there because I've been using it. So once you go there, there was some registration done for this demo. That's why we're able to see the demo coming up. But let me show you how to do it. Click on new registration and provide a name. So in this case, graph demo. I'll put as graph demo. And here what you have to do is, because I'm using the personal Microsoft account and it's outside this, it's you have to choose the third option. Okay, so accounts in any organization directory and the personal Microsoft account. Okay, so once you choose this, that's it. Don't give anything, redirect URI and all, just leave it and do a registration. Once you register this app, you need to go inside this app, which we are already there, and you can see the client ID. This is the client ID. Okay, so you need to copy this ID, and if you come to this app settings, you have to put your client ID here. Okay, so once you put your client ID here, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. And then there is something that you have to do here. Okay, so now click on this authentication. Okay, and then if you scroll down, there's something called allow public client flows. Okay, this is currently set to no. You need to set to yes and do a save. Reason, because the application that we are running is a console application which is running from the public, right? Public means it's not within the Azure network, it's outside the network. So in order for us to access or create any application that can access this AD, you have to make this as yes and do a save. So once you're done with that, we should be okay with the authentication. Okay, now I copied this application client ID and I'm going to go back to this one and go here and change this to the new one that we added. Okay, so we're good. So right now we have access to this user.read and mail.read. Okay, so let's go to this API permissions and then click on add permissions, and here you can choose Microsoft Graph and then application permission. So here you can actually say users, and users will come. You see this under user, you can actually provide the scope here. So this is the scope that we were giving consent from the Graph API, if you remember. Okay, so I'm gonna give the read access. I'm going to give all this basic read and write access, add permission, and then let's add few more things, which is the mail. So if I click here, application, and let's search with mail, see, we got the mail, right? So I can give all the mail access so that it can send me email. So add permission, and once you add these things, here you see this, it's just added here, we haven't granted the permission. So basically what you have to do is you have to click on grant admin consent and say yes. So it's giving you the access. Now everything is given, all good. So we can refresh and see. Now this is all set. All what we have to do is we need to rerun the application. Okay, now let's save this. Let's go back and let's do an exit. Let's run this. So now when it runs, if you remember, it's gonna give me a different application ID, right? So I'm gonna copy this, head back to browser and hit on this URL. It is asking me to give the code. I'm gonna copy the code, paste it here, next. It is going to authenticate. I'm saying my credential, send notification. Let's approve this quickly. I'm approving it. It's approved. Okay, now you can see clearly we gave a different the access, right? So based on the access, now it is asking me, can I run this? I say yes. All done. Now I can actually play with this. Access token I got. I can send an email. Okay, so all good, right? So this is how you do. So now let's quickly go take a look at the code, how things works. If you go to this program.cs, the first one that executes is the initialize graph. Basically we are reading the settings and initializing it, and then based on the option that you choose, each method has been called. Okay, alright, so once the settings has been loaded, once we initialize the graph, you can see the first one is the greet user. And if I come here, okay, so we are calling a method called the get user async from the helper. So let's go to this method and see what is there in this one. Okay, so basically this helper method, let's go to this helper and get user async. Let's find it. So this is the get user async method, and you can clearly see basically what we are doing is we are returning the client. We are trying to access the client. So let's see, where is this client? User client is coming. Okay, so user client is coming from here. So let's take a look at this user client. Okay, so it's a static variable. It's been initialized in the constructor. So what basically it is initializing is it's going and sending the device code credential and the scope that we have it here. Okay, so based on the initialization that we have, we can actually use that .me. .me, if you remember, that is what the URL, or in other words I can say, you see this .me. So this is in turn calling this endpoint. Okay, so every single action that we do here is in turn calling an endpoint. So we are just using the SDK to call that, and once you request that API, it is going to fetch this information, and this information has been sent, and that is what we display in the console application. Similarly, you can see there are many methods here. Okay, all these methods are doing the similar one. So for example, it is for the inbox access, we are just reading the mailbox folder messages, and then we're sending the request. Eventually, the request has been sent, and it is just taking the top 55 one. So all these things. So long story short, all what I'm saying is Microsoft Graph is available through the APIs, which you can explore from the Graph Explorer. And if you want to use benefited stuff through the SDK, you can also use the Microsoft SDK. Microsoft Graph SDK is available for Android, Java, TypeScript, and so many languages, including this C#. So we are using .NET SDK to build this one. So we are in turn calling all the Graph API, and we can nicely even build a sample application or a useful application which will be used by your organization or for your own purpose. Okay, so hope you understand and you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, don't forget to subscribe my channel, like it, share it, comment it, and never forget to click on the bell icon.